So Don and I met in 1993 and started dating. And maybe a month into our dating, not very long, I was going back home to Pennsylvania and I asked him to watch my two cats. So he agreed to come over to my apartment and take care of the cats while I was gone. Well, I guess I called to check messages or something. This was before cell phones. And I get this phone call and I pick up this I listened to this phone message and it was really strange.
Hey, Miss Menzo, this is Billy Bob's Taxidermy, and we got your two cats here that are ready to pick up, that's been all taken care of. So when you get back, make sure to call us. Thank you.
And I was a little worried. And then I knew Don was known for being goofy. I mean, he embarrassed me on one of our first dates. We were in this little Italian restaurant, and I don't know if I said what or something to what you were saying. And go ahead, Don. It's
And I turned around and said, turn up your hearing aid.
in the
And I
middle.
did it loud enough for the restaurant to hear.
Yes,
And
yes,
everybody turned. And you dated me. You kept dating me, though.
I did. You kept embarrassing me, I guess, because you were making me laugh. My cats were okay. He hadn't really taken them to a taxidermist. And
And that's how we started our relationship.
and there was a point where we had no cat after one of our cats had passed and there were no cats in the house. And I said, Don, I've had cats longer than I've been with you. I got to have my cats. And we do.
Yes,
We
yes,
have
we do.
we have two cats and we've been married for over 30 years
Yes.
and have been parents for 27 plus years. And hello, everyone.
This is Don.
And this is Gina.
Welcome to the Focus Healthy Family podcast. And this is podcast number, where did I do with my sheet? I think it's 158.
And it's the Getting to Know Us podcast. We thought we'd reintroduce ourselves, tell some fun stories, um, and also talk about parenting and journeying and other things along the way.
Because the last time we did this was back 3 years ago when the
Yeah.
very first one, and wasn't even didn't have video, so we're kind of
Yes. Now that we're on camera, you could see
yeah.
our goofy looks. So, but we are, as always, going to start with the caregiver tip.
Oh yes, let me get my book out here. It's Caregivers 101, 100 Ways to Keep Caregiving from Making You Crazy by Mike Collins. And today's tip, it's about humor, since we're kind of start out with humor and probably talk a lot more through the time. But this one is tip number 21. Humor may be your number one coping tool. This is about caregiving, what caregivers can do. At first glance, caregiving would not seem to be a ton of fun. However, the skill of being able to find moments of humor, what might be called lightness of heart, can save your life. When we laugh heartily, it is like jogging for the inside. Our brains release endorphins, hormones that make us healthy. Find excuses to laugh. Look through joke books, watch comedies on television and movies, learn to tell a joke, or at least know how to get one, and search the internet for humor sites. Find something that makes you laugh out loud about your caregiving experience. During during my family's caregiving experience, I visited my father in the hospital on Sunday morning. He was sitting in a recliner having breakfast and indicated that he would like to lie in bed and watch television. I attempted to help him out of the recliner and, after much pulling, realized that he was restrained to the recliner with a tie-in back bib. We both cracked up. Even the darkest moments can have moments of lightness of of heart. And just before we get that, just thinking about that the one time that was one of my favorite ones with your dad was when we were sitting around the table and he was talking about heart issues or something.
Yeah, this was before he had moved out of the house. So we were down at my parents' and he said, how do you know when you're having a heart attack?
And I held up, I acted like the road runner or the with the sign that said, stop, something like that.
You said when Roadrunner holds up a sign, it says heart attack.
That's it. Yeah.
And
And
my dad busted out
I've
laughing.
never seen him that even before, I don't think I've ever seen him that he had such a deep belly laugh and it felt so good. Anyway, that was just
Yes, that you
something
always
kind of,
brought some humor when visiting my dad
yeah,
and just,
tried to.
oh, that was great. Yeah, he just really, really laughed at that
I
one.
think he almost peed in his pants. It was, yeah.
It was funny.
Anyway,
On that light note, um, got some little jokes here. Um, I'm 2 months pregnant now. When will my baby move? With any luck, right after he finishes college. Um, do I have to have a baby shower? Not if you change the diaper very quickly.
I've had those showers.
Um, should I have a baby after 35? The OBGYN says, no, 35 children is enough.
These are pretty good.
And what do you give a new mom so she's ready for anything?
I don't know. What do you give a mom that isn't ready for anything?
So that she is ready.
So she is ready for. I got to get the joke right.
A diaper bag of tricks. Um,
So to get to know us,
we're
I thought,
telling some stories today. You talk about caregiving and humor. This morning, so our daughter was on spring break last week and returned Monday and just exhausted because she was on a different sleep schedule. She was off for a week and didn't do homework for some reason till late Monday night. I was just really tired. She got up this morning. You came to get me actually. You said she's on the couch and she's not moving. And it's like 8 o'clock. She's got to be at school at 8:30. We drive her. And she wasn't sure what to do, and there was just a lot of drama. But she kind of decided to, rest a little bit longer and go in later. So I sat down with her, knowing she looked like she needed some company, and she pulled up these comedy sketches. I'm not going to remember the name of them, but they're kind of over the top humor
mm,
and just some ridiculous episodes. And it was just fun to laugh together. And she was telling me how her brother had showed her some of these episodes. And so she just started watching them. And it's enjoyable to watch something funny with your kids. I know that there's some really funny movies that I rewatched with our kids, and I loved Harrison was always fun to just watch and laugh. I just enjoyed it even more with any of seeing them laugh at it and seeing them get a kick out of it. It
well, he
was
was
just,
also, you remember, as a
oh,
really small child
he was
when he
in a high
watched one of
chair.
our, no, when
Oh,
we were watching one of our home movies and he
oh,
stood in front of the camera and he cried over the, no, so he had a balance of good humor, but also saw the sadness in things too. And I don't remember there wasn't anything sad about on the movie. He just was,
no, it was the day he was born, and he was in
oh, that's right.
they had taken him from me to go clean him up and
That's
weigh
right.
him
Yes.
and watching. Had a video camera and had that on camera, and he was crying as a baby in the video. And yes, he sobbed watching it as if he
That's
remembered.
right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
What I thought you were going to tell is when he was a toddler and in his high chair, and you'd get out a piece of ice
Oh, yeah.
and
You just roll it around on the table, if I remember right, and he would just laugh and laugh and laugh. It was, yeah,
it was easy to get him to laugh. He hearty belly laugh, and um, yeah, thinking about laughing with our children, and
yeah.
it's different when they're different ages. What they find funny. Um, our middle child was famous for her knock knock jokes. Knock knock, who's there?
Oh, toilet flushing.
Well, that's a fun one, but knock knock, who's there? Horse who? Horse you. They kind of all had the same. She was probably about 5. Yes,
Yeah.
the interrupting toilet joke. So go ahead.
What's that?
Say knock knock.
Knock knock.
Oh, I need to do the joke. Knock knock, Don.
Who's there?
Interrupting toilet.
Interrupting.
Flush. There's
Oh
quite a
my.
few different versions
I
of
mean,
that.
what do we what we're at like 32 years, I think, this year, I think. I think it's 94 and might be 31.
Yes, we just celebrated 30. Remember, we went to
Yes.
Virginia. That was
Oh,
me.
that's right. Yeah,
That
we
was
did.
you. That was
That was me
30.
and you. Yes, we did go. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, 31 years and so much is going on, but it's wild to think of how there's no dull stories coming out there because there's emotional and there's humor and there's all kinds of stuff within our story.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about when we became parents. So this is 1997. I was pregnant with our first child, and um,
Well,
I woke up in the middle of the night and I felt this water leaking, and I went to the bathroom and it was just like a trickle. And I remember calling the doctor, like you called them and they called you back, whoever was on call. I said, I think my water broke, but it's, just a little bit. And I remember them saying, what do you mean you think it broke? It either broke or it didn't break. And they had me come into the hospital. And all along, no one questioned it, the whole mild water breaking. I wasn't progressing with labor, so they started me on Pitocin, and it wasn't until I got up and walked to the bathroom that the labor kicked in. I learned from that experience, laying in bed, you're
yeah.
not going to progress with your labor when you're not having active contractions. And so I had gotten an epidural because the pain just went from 0 to 100 and kicked in. And so I'm in the bed there, laboring along, and the nurse needed to put an internal monitor on his head. They were a little concerned about his heart rate. And I was in labor almost 24 hours. I went through a lot of different nurses, and this particular nurse was my least favorite. And so she was the one, she's down at my crotch, putting the monitor into the baby's head, who's right, had not been born yet. And she gets flooded with water. So, I'm on an epidural. I have a catheter
It
bag.
was kind of her payback
I'm
in a
kind of
way.
like, what did my catheter break? Well, it turns out there are actually two sacks um, with embryonic fluid. And so it was a kind of the outer sac that had a slow leak to it. So my water was not fully broken until she pierced it. And then my water was broken. But it's just funny, I learned more after that birth. I went to Bradley childbirth classes and learned so much more than I had learned at the basic hospital birth classes. And again, I have a degree in occupational therapy. I studied human anatomy and physiology, did the cadaver lab in college and all of this, and never realized this component of the uterus and when you've got a baby and the sac that they're in. But yeah, that was
Well,
kind of a funny moment, and I don't think she was thrilled. But
yeah,
uh,
it was kind of payback for her.
well, and before I had the epidural, um, Don's sitting there with me. He became mesmerized by
Well, I
the
didn't realize
monitor that showed the contractions.
you didn't I didn't really think about that, being that worked up over it. I didn't remember that. I guess I was, as you mentioned.
You were holding my hand.
No, I know, but I mean, just getting to the hospital and all that, I was,
Backing up a little bit.
well, I
Yeah, I
kind
remember like, okay, we need to go to the hospital. And I was two weeks before my due date, just about. And I'm gathering some things up, and you're like, we've got to get there.
of,
We need to go. And I'm like, I think we have time. And I wanted to take my time and gather some things up because I didn't think it would happen quite this soon. Yet, ironically, at work, they had a pool. They were betting on when I would have this baby. So I'm due the 22nd of November, I believe. And people are betting December, and I picked November 10th, and that's when he was born. Um, he's a punctual kid. Um,
hey, we were
so
talking
we
about,
were, I'm in there. I guess it's before the epidural, and I was having these contractions, and you're holding my hand, I guess, to comfort me. And you got mesmerized by this monitor that showed the contractions coming. And I just remember you squeezing my hand, going, oh my gosh, it's going to be a bad one. And I had to tell you to relax because you were squeezing my hand so hard. It was painful.
yeah,
Labor's been an interesting experience.
Yeah.
for you, Dom. What do you remember about our second child's birth?
Well, I mean, that one we had, Harrison was old. He was, what, six,
Four.
I guess. It was, okay. Um, and originally, he was there and your mom and dad came for it.
I
It was a little,
invited.
it was quiet, a lot quieter. They were a little bit better, except the nurses kept kept telling you about how the traffic was
Well,
this way and
so
that way.
I
Yeah.
I chose to have nurse midwives for this birth, and I had learned so much more. And unfortunately, I was at transition, which is kind of the most difficult part of labor when you're almost at the full 10 centimeters right before you're going to push this baby out. And somehow that happened at 8 a.m. And that's when they changed shift. And one nurse midwife was, they were, discussing things, but instead of just discussing me, they were discussing the traffic. And I'm like, come on, people, I'm having a baby here.
No, but I remember, like I say, you invited your mom and dad up because you felt like your dad didn't get a chance to ever see a birth, so you
Yeah,
invited him
I'd
up.
invited them to experience the birth of
Yeah,
their grandchild.
yeah, and uh, and so they were. I can remember I was on one side of you, and they were on the other side, the window, and in between was Harrison, and kind of holding on to the two of them. And I remember him just like the whole time his mouth was dropped open, though he was like, uh, and then I remember after he was born, you asked, well, I think his godmother was there too.
Yes, yes, we had her come, a good friend of ours. We had her come. She met us at the hospital, so he stayed with her. Because
They
my
went to the
parents,
store or something too to get, because that's where he got
well,
the cake and all of
that
that.
was that was my mom, but
Oh, it was?
yeah, because
Okay.
my parents were living almost 2 hours away, so
Yeah.
Barbara met us there so she could hang out with Harrison. Well, um,
Miss Barbara.
yes, if you're out there, Barbara Lee, contact
Yeah. If
us.
you hear this,
Um,
somebody knows it.
and so then my parents got there a little later. Anyways, yeah, they were there for the birth. And I guess I suggested to my mom about going to get a birthday cake or something to occupy Harrison. And so they went out to buy a birthday cake to celebrate his new little sister's birthday. And I still remember his cute little voice. And he's like, Abby needs to have a piece of the cake. It's her birthday. And he called her our baby. Like he felt so connected. He was so excited about having this little sister. It was kind of a perfect age. He was 4 and a couple months old, and he was just thrilled to death. And yeah, it didn't face him at all to stand there staring at his mother's
Well, and I
as this baby emerged. And
well, I remember too. Tell me if I'm wrong, but did we name Abby because of the Abby kind of
sort of,
sort of like that? Because
yeah. So you could play a game with Harrison when he was little. Go ahead and tell the game.
well, it was just it
He
was
would he
more
would
about what
say
he would
uppy
say.
uppy. He
Yeah,
would say uppy uppy. He wanted to be picked up. But you created a game with him where it was this imaginary Abby, because he'd be saying
throwing
uppy
clothes out the
uppy,
door,
and you'd be helping him get dressed and going through the dresser, and
be
have
pulling clothes out, throwing behind
and you'd
me.
be
He
like,
was
Abby,
sitting on
no,
the
stop it, Abby. And it was this imaginary Abby
yeah.
that you kind of made this joke out of. And
We decided
we just
to.
really liked the name, and it's
Mm.
just we brought imaginary Abby to life.
And then if you want to think about our third one, that
So yeah,
was
we
a
kind of did the whole gamut. I had regular OBGYNs for the first hospital delivery and wound up with an epidural and was grateful that I was able to give birth vaginally, and yet wanted a different experience the second time. And the Bradley classes were wonderful. We learned so much. We attended these classes, and I chose the practice where there were nurse midwives to be there, kind of following a little bit more understanding the body, and doctors are great in an emergency and in a difficult situation, yet healthcare has evolved that they're not trained as much in just natural birth process and what's involved. And I mean, if you look to European models, they use midwives quite a bit. And so it was a really powerful experience, and it was really The second birth, a whole lot easier than the first birth. I mean, I had, I managed the contractions. I had my birth plan that I didn't want to lay in bed because I knew that slowed the labor. And so I,
Hmm.
for the most part, was leaning on the side of the bed to labor. And I think someone even said I had a proven pelvis. So they were less likely to make force me to do things. I didn't want the baby monitor, one of the monitors on, because then that just, if it's off and it's not on correctly, then it sends false signals that there's something wrong or whatever. So they left one of the monitors off and they worked with me. But again, I remember I think someone even said how I had this proven pelvis. And
Elvis has left the auditorium.
and
Um,
I had met other people who had natural births and things. And so I decided the third time around to have a home birth. And so I
yeah,
interviewed two different lay midwives. Every state has different laws about this. Um, so I found this midwife that I liked and felt
she was really
comfortable
good.
with,
Yeah.
and we would go to her house for all my midwife checkups, just like you would normally go to your doctor. And I liked the idea of not having to get in the car because that was the toughest thing, actually. Um,
Yeah.
with the second birth was the hospital we had chosen
It
was
was quite a way. It
it was a
was
good
across town, basically,
30,
from
40 minute drive, maybe 45 minutes to get there before the highway was finished. And having to sit in the car, it was just so intense and
mm,
uncomfortable because I was actually laboring. If I remember right, I was leaning over like a big exercise ball. And I was finding quite a bit of relief in that position. Well, in the car, I'm sitting up like this, and it was really uncomfortable. So, we debated different things and decided to go this route of this home birth. And yet, it was almost 7 years from when I had my second child to my third child. I was 39 years old when I had my last child. And um, the body kind of forgets a little bit. And I had some
Mm.
intense back labor. Um,
I had some too, but that was a different story.
well, I was borrowed a friend's birthing tub. It was in the middle of our kitchen, and I was kind of squatting and holding on to you. And with
Yeah.
each contraction,
Oh,
um, I'm just leaning on you, and yeah, you're having to hold me up, and it was quite painful for you
both
and for
of
your
us.
back as well. And so it was a difficult labor. And the thing I regret from that was not having someone assigned to um our
Yeah,
middle
we had.
child. She was just shy of her seventh birthday, and
eh,
it was a lot on her. She
mm,
emotionally, it was a lot more than when her younger brother witnessed her birth. I
yeah.
did, just different personalities, different developmental stage, different and it was a lot. And so that's the one thing I wished. I mean, we were in the house, we had the midwife was there.
Was
Um,
their daughter was there too to
well,
help
her
out with
older
that, but
daughter,
she had
she
a
had like six of her own kids, and one of them was a teenager and was taking care of her youngest, who was
you know,
somewhere around 9 months or a year old, that she had come with. But then the next day she had a daughter the same age as Abby, because I remember she told her all these stories. She told her she was adopted, and she just made up all these
yeah.
stories
She
that she
our second
but
child
but then
had
she
a
had
lot.
someone to hang out with. But no, our daughter didn't make up the stories.
Oh, oh,
Her daughter made the stories
oh.
up. But just, that's one thing looking back, having someone there for her would have really, been beneficial. And
Yeah.
so yeah, we had lots of different
Well, you
experiences.
remember that I still remember because your friend loaned us the pool, the
Birthing tub.
birthing tub,
Yeah, it's kind of like
and
a
I
blow up.
remember the the stamp
Oh
on it said
yes, yes.
no diving.
So it's an inflatable pool, basically, kind of like a
Probably
kiddie pool
like a good huge dining table kind of
size.
size
Yeah.
wise
But on the
and
side
about
of it
that
was
tall.
printed, no diving. And it was
Like, who would yeah,
quite
that was
comical
anyways.
that, yeah, you're not going to stand on the side of a 3 foot high tub.
Inflatable on top of it. I mean, probably couldn't even stand on it really if you tried, but yeah.
So very, very different experiences. As we step into the world of parenting, three different times as we had each child and adding to the joy of the Grothoff household and just the different challenges that parenting brings. All kids are different. And there's, I don't know what typical is, but kids have different personalities. And
Hmm.
even, people would say, oh, boys are all rough and tumble and girls will sit quietly. And our firstborn was this quiet kid who would sit for hours and
With
looking
his
at
little stuffy signs.
something and just was kind of a calm kid. For a boy, his speech was kind of earlier than average. He made friends in his preschool with girls, and we realized because he couldn't understand the boys and what they were saying. Um, he was just a sweet, affectionate, calm kid that was, um, yes, very intellectual and very in his head quite a bit. And
And he's still good. He's still in his head.
yes, yes, he's a manager in retail.
Yes.
And I remember his little sister comes along, and they're 4 years apart. And he had kind of long hair as a kid for a while. And I remember them saying, Mom, she's got me by my hair. And she's like grabbed him by his hair and she's dragging him on the ground, and we're like, it's your little sister. What do you mean? You're bigger than her. And she was a rough and tumble kid. I can still
Mm.
picture the living room floor covered in toys. And she just stepped right over them,
Um,
just kind of a little bit fearless and carefree, kind of that easygoing kid. Although that was followed by 3 months of colic and bouncing
oh
and
God, yes. Oh my.
the kid who didn't want to sleep. And that was cured at about the age of 13 when she did nothing but sleep. She's still making up for all her lost hours.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, it's been a fun and interesting and challenging. And I guess that's really the story of parenting, though.
Yeah.
It's the hardest job you ever can imagine, but the fun one too at the same time. It
And
is,
it's more than a job. I mean,
yeah,
it's it's an experience, and yet
yeah.
people have talked about, if you read this description, would you take this position? You work 24/7, you're always on call, you you gotta wipe butts and runny noses and change diapers and
Well, I mean,
this long list of things that you need to do.
I did a talk way back when I first met Melissa about speaking, and on it I talked about you know, like swinging. Remember you? I don't know what book was. I think it was a book that told us
It's talking
about
about parenting.
you would put like a weighted like a sandbag or something like that, and you tie a rope on it and tie it to the ceiling, and then swing it back and forth, and then imagine taking a fork and trying to feed that, that thing as
Yes.
it tried
So
to go
feeding a
by.
toddler, that's kind of a simulation. It was kind
Yeah,
of
yeah, it
a,
was a
yeah,
simulation, but
what
yeah,
would it be like, feeding a toddler and that they're constantly moving around, right? They're squirming. And we're talking about caring for aging loved ones. So the
yeah,
roles
we've
get
yeah,
reversed when we're caring for parents, and we have similar struggles, people being incontinent, needing to be cleaned and changed and taken to the bathroom, and difficulty feeding themselves.
yeah,
Yet
it's
we
kind
do
of
want
a
to remember, if we're caring for an aging person, they're an adult, they've lived a full life, and we need to make sure we're not treating them
respectful. Yep.
like a little kid. And I mean, I believe in respecting all people. So I never really baby talked to my little kids, but just remembering that this is an adult and just we have to approach it a little bit different because even though maybe their cognition, they have dementia, they're not able to respond in a way like a full adult would do, that they developmentally, it's like they're a child, but remembering that they are an adult. They've lived a very full life, and
Hmm.
just letting them, being respectful of that and acknowledging that can be so important. Telling stories, talking about memories with your loved one, that's something that could be quite enjoyable, if you're taking care or just visiting your aging parent and just remembering childhood stories, asking them. I know kind of the last several years, some trips I went on with my parents and my dad. Um, just telling stories. I'd ask him about, when he was first dating, and he just loved to tell stories and just talk about his first car and just all these different things that he did. And so, yeah, so telling stories can be a fun way to connect and engage and kind of lighten things. So finding things that you find funny, finding family home videos or other things that you can enjoy together to laugh together can really make a difference in your journey, no matter where you're at and what age and
Yeah.
stage of people that you're caring for. Um, and you can find a way also to cross generations to some extent and finding, a community in kind of a connection of comedy and finding things everybody could possibly enjoy together and laugh. I know we've showed my mom some different comedians and um, just seeing her laugh and just really enjoy some different things is has been fun since she's now a widower and just enjoying that time together. I remember she told us recently we were playing games that it was more fun playing with us than the old ladies where she lived.
Yeah.
And just that, enjoy being around each other and what things can we do. And uh, games are such a great thing because it really works the brain and stimulates
We've been doing that ever since,
our cognitive skills.
if you think back when even before we had kids, when we like going, well, when we went down to your parents, that was Harrison was still a child, but we would always play games like cards and different games and always have stuff, go outside and do stuff yeah.
Mhm.
So you got some questions for us? Is that
Yeah.
what?
So getting to know us, taking it's kind of a different angle now. And let's see. So I've got some different questions to ask. Don, what's a skill that you are very proud of?
Ooh, my communication, my ability to speak in front of a crowd, I guess. Would you consider that a skill? I guess so.
It is. It is quite a skill. Um,
That and being handy around the house too. I like fixing things, even though I don't always fix them the greatest, but they get fixed.
you're good at figuring it out and doing
Yeah.
what needs to be done to take
What
care of
about you?
something.
Now it's your turn.
What's a skill I'm proud of? I always say I'm a good listener, but let me think of something else. Um,
With the kids. No.
and the thousands of people I've worked with over the years. Um, hmm,
They're good at making blankets.
being in the moment with the kids.
Oh yeah.
Um, when they were little, we sat down on the floor and we played with pots and pans and we
Yeah, that's
made tents and I joined in with them and just being in their world, being where they were at and just that's something that maybe it's become more challenging as they're older,
mm,
but just really stopping and joining in with them and just yeah, being in the moment. That's something and I know I did that, as I visited my dad and was just there with him
hmm
and um,
much better at that than I ever been.
we all have our strengths and our
You're
weaknesses.
kind of you're kind of like, and I don't. But with my mom was like that. Was always got down and you know played with the kids, got all down with them like you do. So
Yeah, I've
that
got some fun memories of visiting your mom with the older kids were little and
playing games with them. I remember that. I don't know if you remember that one where they were sitting at the table down in the back room, and I can't remember what they were doing though because
was
Harrison was
Harrison.
up here and your mom was down here, and she'd run
Your
down
mom, yeah.
and then run back. I can't remember,
He
but
was, yeah, they were writing things down. Yeah, it was some silly little game they were playing together and he'd run away and she'd be like, "Oh, that's silly Harrison." And yeah, it's something she
yeah,
never got to meet, her youngest grandchild.
yeah.
But and that and sitting on the swing
Yeah.
with
Well,
them or
she'd
pushing
always
them on the swing and
and singing that song, and I can't think of the
forever
song, but
blowing bubbles.
yeah, yeah. So
What's a skill that you'd like to learn?
I'd love to learn how to play the piano. Just I don't know. I've started to try, but life gets a little busy and didn't get to
Kids
it. But
bought you a book, didn't they?
yeah, I've got a couple of them
I know when
actually.
I met you, you always wanted to play the clarinet.
Well, yeah, and then your mom sold it. I was like,
We had
ah,
two clarinets. My sister and I played through high school, and she had a garage sale before they moved
yeah, I wanted to
and
play like Benny Goodman.
sold them really cheap.
So, what skill have you decided to hone in on,
Oh,
or what one do you want to do?
well, I always wanted to be a really good ice skater. Um, and just, I loved watching ice skating, the Olympics, and I skated as a kid, but all I could do was go forward. And I just was mesmerized um, by ice skaters and I guess and dancers too. Just I would I would love to be able to sing really well. I
Mm,
have difficulty singing on key. And as much as I love to sing, um, it's something I'm got that from my dad. Thanks, Dad. He liked to sing too, but not able to sing on key. Um, do you have a favorite quote or mantra? I know I do. It's enjoy the journey.
wow.
So not getting wrapped up in the end product, but the process along the
Mm,
way. And the first blog I started, I called Gina's Life Journey. Or learning and growing, right? Whether
mm,
just existing in the world, our own personal life, parenting, it's a big journey. And, we're figuring it out as we go. I would tell people that when I began my homeschool journey, they're like, what do you follow? What method? I'm like, I'm figuring it out as I go. And I continued to follow that belief throughout all the years until our oldest graduated and was going to community college. Just and enjoying the process along the way because the process of what we're engaged in and what we're doing is often more important than the end product. Thus, I have many partially started projects and
mm.
partially written books. And so, what's your mantra, Don? Get it
I don't.
done now? No,
Well, yeah.
no.
My mine always come back to something more humorous or something. I don't know if I'd call them mantras. So I'm not sure if I really have a mantra that I can think of right now. Um, I
You think about it and come back to it.
I'll see if I can. Yeah.
Do you have a piece of advice that you'd give your younger self?
Oh, my younger self. Oh, wow. Ooh. Uh, not to. Well, if I'm able to tell my younger self, I tell them not to listen to my parent, but know that they have a lot of their own issues that they're dealing with, and not hold on to their stuff.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's a good way to do it or not, but
Advice I'd give to my younger self. It's something I say to my kids, and then I realize they've got to get it that what everybody else thinks of you is not your business. That and, everyone is so worried about their own self and their own stuff that we spend all this time worried about what people think, how we look, how we dress, how we act at school, that, yeah, to not be caught up in all of that.
yeah.
I was so, as I got my teenage years, was reserved and quiet and afraid to say the wrong thing or look
Mm.
silly or act dumb or that yeah, I kind of was bottled up inside for quite some time, not being able to really let go. Um, and so, yeah, life is temporary and things change. Um, and to not take yourself too seriously, although people used to say that to me and it would annoy me. I tended to be a very serious kid and I didn't like to be told to lighten up.
Yeah.
But to know that, yeah, yeah, it's okay to make mistakes and be yourself. If there's something you could change about yourself, what would it be?
Get a new heart. Uh, I don't know.
That's,
In actuality, it's held up pretty darn strong. Maybe I don't need to get a new one. Just
oh, it's more the arteries than the heart.
probably.
The arteries leading to the heart.
Yeah, been through two heart attacks and open heart surgery, all that. So, um, what would I change? Hmm. I'd I'd want to get rid of. I think I have anger in me, and I'd want to find some way to quail that somehow.
Tonight and every Tuesday, well, we're recording this on Tuesday, it airs on Thursday. So next Tuesday at 7 p.m., you can tune in to the website and see the link for Don's tapping sessions. So there's this practice, Don, called EFT. It's emotional freedom technique, and it helps to move
Loosen that up.
emotions and through us. And so I think you should join in on that
I think I
session.
will need to do that. Yes, I've been a practitioner for almost over just 13 years, and
Okay.
been doing it since I was 20.
Since you were 20,
No, I'm sorry, since 2023 is when I think I started doing it for myself. I
you
think it's
started tapping for yourself
when I met.
in 2023.
Okay, let me back up. It's 2003 is what it was. With 2003. Yeah, thank you
I don't
for
know if we talked about Don had a stroke a couple
it's
months
still part of
ago.
me.
And yeah, sometimes he
It
doesn't get, I
gets
like that you've been
confusing.
tapping since you were 20. That's
That would
maybe
be
that's what you could have
interesting.
told your younger self is you could taught him how to
I could,
tap.
yeah, that could be an idea too.
Who knows? You might have
It
gone to
wasn't even
Texas.
it wasn't even around then,
No,
but
it hadn't been invented
I'll
yet.
invented myself and tell Gary Craig to go.
If I could change one thing about myself, um, well, I immediately think of like my metabolism.
Okay.
Um, I'd like to instantly take off 20 or 25 pounds from a physical standpoint. Um,
Dun, 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 dun,
um,
dun, dun,
I'm
dun.
thinking from a different perspective, but I don't
We didn't know
know.
we were getting into these heavy questions here.
Heavier questions
Yeah,
of
they're
thought
good though. They're good.
provoking. I'm going to leave it at that. I'd like to take off those pounds. Um, this one is what makes you laugh the most. We kind of touched on this at the beginning of our conversation. For me, it's seeing the kids laugh, watching something that I enjoy and seeing
Ah,
their delight and their laughter. Um,
for me, it's been like some the good comedians like Jim Gaffigan and Um, well, I look back at some like we were watching Jackie Gleason, the little thing on Jackie Gleason from way back when, and I think back to my childhood. I think about I remember my father laughing, and that was a big thing, and it was usually from like Carol Burnett's show or something like that, and that always made me feel really good. That goes way back, but that's not what makes me laugh necessarily now,
yeah,
but.
yeah, sort of like that. It's a feel good moment versus I mean, I think I laughed the hardest in my adult life, at least. We had gone to see David Wilcox in concert, and this was a band my sister had introduced us to. And we went, I guess he was playing in Charlotte. My sister and brother-in-law came down, introduced us to this band. He used to open for James Taylor, and they used to go in Philadelphia and hear him. And so we didn't know his music much yet. And so he's this great story writer artist, and he's got some comical songs. And he's got one called Blow 'Em Away, and it's about riding in rush hour traffic. And oh my God, I laughed so hard. I threw my head back and hit the seat behind me and hurt. But
Actually, it was a wall behind us that we
oh,
were at the
okay.
very back. But
But
yeah,
oh my gosh, it just that song and just the ridiculousness of it, and I love that kind of humor. That and I've grown to love kind of Will Ferrell over the top. I was having an issue with another parent in our in my world where I was at the time when the kids were younger, and she just was accusing me of things. It was this really difficult time. And I went by myself to the movies to see Blades of Glory. And so it's a spoof movie on ice skating and figure skating, and these two male skaters who get kicked out of pair skating, and they come together themselves to as a couple to skate. Um, but just yeah, and I don't know that I would have enjoyed that as much when I was younger, but just
Mhm.
kind of the absurdity of things. And there was this super axle spin that the last time it was done, it decapitated somebody, and just because I love ice skating, they even had Nancy Kerrigan had a cameo in it.
Mhm.
To look up the old Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding incident from
Yeah.
gosh, a long time ago. But yeah, kind of over the top stuff like that, and as well as a little more, I don't know.
Well, I go back to the way back before they ever came up with Pictionary, the game Pictionary, where you could. I'm trying to think how we came up with a story with my brother and his wife and his family, and we used to you grab a dictionary and you try to find a word in the dictionary that nobody would understand, and then each person in the group would make um, a definition for it.
You had to guess
And
which
oh
one
my
was
God, the
real.
things we came up with were, and I don't, I can't, one was fur dung. I came up with it, and I can't remember what it was, but I mean, we laughed so hard. Anyway, it was those games, and we do it now. We
Well,
play
yeah, we've
now. Some
pulled
of the
out
stuff,
categories as a fun one.
yeah,
So you have a dice with the letters of the alphabet, and there's a card with 10 different categories, and you roll the dice and you have so much time, you've
yeah,
got to put a word in. And it's always, if you roll a W, everything's got to start with the word W. And
and
so
we
you get
laugh at that.
creative when you play that, right? Because you're trying to come up with something, and you make an adjective first, or you make up something silly to fit into the and we played that before we had kids with the family.
Hmm.
And we played all these other more sophisticated games with the kids recently, and everything they bring to us. And we pulled that one out, and everyone has a good time with it.
Yeah.
It's just fun trying to come up with words, and then we vote on the word, whether it's acceptable or not, and we have little
Okay.
discussions, some debates about it, which is fun. I mean, that's kind of the fun part of it is, just
Yeah.
sort of the ridiculousness and just hearing each other. Um, yeah, it's kind of a simple, go back to simple times games that's uh, can be a lot of fun. So we've talked a little bit about parenting, a little bit about our journey, um, some fun little anecdotes of things, and remembering how can you keep humor in your life? What stories can you pull from the past or share? Or maybe if you've had a turbulent childhood or difficult time, maybe a shared TV show. My in my my dad's last years, they watched Green Acres all the time. And my mom had some service or whatever, she could access the shows, and they sat and watched like probably every episode um of that. And is there another one they watched? It was mostly
Was it
Green.
Mayberry?
No, it was
Wasn't
mostly
Mayberry?
Green Acres. But
Yeah.
and I know when my dad was in the hospital, we'd look for those kind of silly shows to watch. So yeah, what can you draw on? What things did they like? Or maybe it's not even humor, but they really like painting or animals or um, mysteries. How can you engage with them in a lighthearted manner, just something that they enjoy, and just like, okay, I don't know if I like this, but I'm just gonna try because
Yeah.
sometimes we like check something out we don't normally think we'd like, and we're like, huh, this is interesting. Our youngest has introduced us to, I believe it's Wes Anderson movies, and they're very different. And she's like, "You got to watch this," and we watched it. I'm like, "This is strange," and just a very different kind of taste. And but yet, it's nice to join into somebody else's world. I still have yet to have her sit down with me and watch The Breakfast Club. I've been bugging her about this since she decided to go to public school, and we actually started to watch it one afternoon, and I forget what was going on that we wound up
Um,
stopping it. But yeah, how can we join them where they're at, whoever it is we're caring for, whatever the situation, finding a beloved show, the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory to, Mary Poppins or Sound of Music and something that can span generations. Our youngest actually called The Sound of Music one of the best movies ever made, I believe.
wow.
And
I think of fried green tomatoes and some of these.
that's a great one.
Yeah, there's some that just are classic that, I mean, the uh, the Back to the Future ones. I mean, they're humorous, but they're kind of classic, and they're
It can be a great a way of caring for yourself.
yeah,
Um,
taking some time.
when I was in the hospital with you or whoever, finding movies on, when we were able to watch a movie together, and you became like mesmerized by movies. I know Abby stopped to visit you one time at the hospital, and she was there for just a little while, and you were engrossed in this movie.
I was.
And she was like, "Yeah, Dad just stared at the TV and watched the
I
movie."
did really. Wow. I
Um,
don't.
yeah, you just
This
be
last time, the
yes, you
last.
became very mesmerized
Hmm.
by shows, and you just stare intently at
I
them.
think it might have been because I mean all this stuff going on with my head. It may have been I was trying to concentrate. I don't know. I didn't know I was didn't mean to do that to her.
No, it's not that, yeah, it wasn't anything. It was just kind of odd because that was
Oh.
not typical um, for you. But, how can you treat yourself? How can you care for yourself? Is there something that you can watch that you enjoy? And, if you have time to take a little soak in the tub, can you put on a funny show? When we were going through a difficult time a couple years ago, our son introduced us to the, is it a Netflix or Apple movie, Spirited with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell, and I think it's the best movie ever. It's a musical.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's got a message to it. It's based on the Christmas Carol, but quite a modern twist, and just yeah, it's just up my alley. And I watched that so many times, and it just kind of helped me to kind of recenter. It's a very positive, empowering kind of movie that has a feel good
Hmm.
message to it, and just the humor in it. Um, yeah, it's still like a go-to that it just brings me joy. So how can you take care of yourself? What things, you like some comedy, maybe you like some more raunchy stuff that you wouldn't watch with your kids around or in front of your parents or whoever. And, you get a few minutes. Maybe you're even sitting in the car waiting on pickup line or something, the long line at the
Yeah.
pharmacy to pick up medication. Pull it up on your phone, take a few minutes to indulge yourself. It's something that you like, that kind of makes you smile or giggle or laugh, or is fun, a fun little memory. Um, it is a good way to care for yourself, and is a good message to share with loved ones as far as having some humor in life. That because laughter, it really is a exercise for the soul, and it's healing. It's got healing properties to engage in laughter.
You asked me about a line before,
Yes, a kind of
the,
a
and I'm not sure
mantra or a
if it,
quote.
but just life is about how you respond to it. As I think about all the things I do with my patients, it's really about how I, you know, we have our own mind of what we want to do, and um, it's just you can respond any way you want to do something. You have kind of that
Yeah, I think
choice that we
difficult
don't
things
want to think
happen,
about.
challenging things happen. It's not what's happening, it's
It's
how we're responding
how
to
you
it.
respond
Yeah,
to it.
I like that, Don. I like that.
Yeah,
And enjoy the journey. Thank you for joining us on our
yeah.
little
Kind of get us back
getting
to
getting
who we
to know
were.
Don and Gina, and we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your comments. Please share this podcast with others that you know. Share a link on your favorite podcast app or to watch it on live to watch the YouTube video. I'm stumbling over my
We're
words
live.
today.
We're
Uh,
live, but recorded.
and let us know what you'd like to hear, what other topics you'd like us to cover, and different people as we're building up some interviews to have for different topics of conversation. Please let us know what you would enjoy. And be on the lookout for Ask the OT, as we're putting together a series of videos on different strategies for caring for an aging loved one. And find out at Focused Healthy Family how you can consult with Don and I, navigating your journey of caring for an aging loved one and navigating the anxiety that goes along with it. Every Thursday night, no, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can join Don on Zoom to learn a little bit about tapping and just jump in and join in. Sometimes it's a small group, sometimes you might be the only one. And you can also see other videos on tapping and learn more about Don and the practice he does with tapping. All of this is found at focusedhealthyfamily.com. We're on Facebook at Focused Healthy Family, Instagram, it's Focused Healthy Family 1, and YouTube at Focused Healthy Family. So join us again next Thursday. Be sure to check out prior podcasts. And remember, how you speak to your children and your loved ones today shapes their future and yours.